Hello, everyone. Do not adjust your set. We've got a little bit of something special planned for you. So we are going to wait a couple of seconds for everyone to file in and get comfortable. And here in about 15 seconds, we will start the show.
I'm Spencer at Still Moving. We're on location today at Gloucestershire Airfield and we're shooting with an aircraft and a model. Still Moving are a production company, so we cover photography and film. But specifically within the photography space, we have a wide range of clients and we cover a wide range of business sectors. One of the most incredible things about using Broncolor and their paras is that if there are things in our minds that we're looking to create, all of the options are available to us. There is so much range within Broncolor that they truly allow us to produce whatever we want and whatever is in our heads. Our key light, which is all of the light which is hitting our model, is the Para 88. We love the Para 88. It's such a lightweight, versatile modifier that we can set it up anywhere, but it's also really great at controlling light, and that's why we love it so much. We used to work with different lights, and it was really frustrating for us because sometimes they gave off a different power, and sometimes you get a different colour hue. When we moved to Broncolor, we had consistency, literally every time we fired the strobe. To the Para 222. We've got a Syros 800L head inside of it, and it's attached to the focusing rod, which means that we can control the spread of light. By pulling the rod in and taking it out, and moving the position of the Syros inside of the Para, we're able to control where that light lands. Paras are best for portraits, whether they're wide or tight portraits. We love using Paras. By using the Para 133, we get this really lovely light. It then moves through to the dark and the shadow, which means we get a really beautiful contrast. They're so quick and easy to assemble that they're now just part of our standard kit, and we roll out with them all of the time. Key light is a Para 177 with a Syros 800L head with inside of it. There's no way we would have shot this campaign in any other way. We had to use the Paras. We knew that we were lighting a large space, and we really wanted those deep dark shadows on one side and a nice light sources to the other. So without using the Paras, it would have been so much harder for us to get the look that we were aiming for. Broncolor has definitely allowed us to increase our position and our professionalism in the market. And going out with great looking equipment that does its job consistently has made a real difference to us.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Ask the Broncolor Assistant. This is our 14th session, and if you haven't guessed, today we are going to be talking all about Para reflectors. This is the fourth and the final of our assistance training series that we have pre-recorded. Thanks so much for the last couple of months joining us, and definitely if you do see one of these trainings going live in your area, make sure to go ahead and sign up. We do these for free, so please make sure that you have a chance to enjoy them and learn in person. Before we get going, just a couple of pieces of homework here. The first of which is next week. Yes, we are almost there. I'm going to go ahead and send a pop-up here in the webinar. Boom, that pop-up should be there. Our lighting masterclass with Urs is going to be going live starting next week. If you are joining us for the first time and are just now learning about this, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Salt Lake City, Atlanta, Chicago, and New York City. We have a 6-city tour where Urs is going to be coming over from Switzerland and is going to be doing his best to teach you a little something about lighting. Definitely would highly recommend that you do join that if you have the opportunity to, and learn from one of the masters. Additionally, as we do all the time here, please make sure you like, follow, share, subscribe, and all the good things for Broncolor USA, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. That's going to be a best place to see the replay of this video here and also get some great video content as well. But enough homework. Let's go ahead and I am going to introduce my partner for the day here. Francis Westfield is a longtime photo assistant and digital technician to legendary New York-based photographers. He estimates that he's been on over 4,000 pro shoot days throughout his 40 years in the industry, and now as Broncolor's technical sales manager here in the U.S., he likes to offer his many years of on-set experience to offer quality products and solutions to pro photographers and studios. So without further ado, welcome, Francis. Oh, and you are muted there, sir, so you might want to... There we go.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Blake. Hi, everyone. Good to see you here. Thanks for joining us on this continuing series of Ask the Broncolor Assistant. I think you're going to like today as we cover the Para Reflectors, the parabolic reflectors from Broncolor. These are unique lighting modifiers, and there really is nothing else like them. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay.
Wonderful. Before we kind of roll into our piece here, I am going to say as well, please, if you have any questions during our webinar today, ask those questions. Use the Q&A button at the top of your chat. That's going to be the easiest way for us to see what questions are available, and we will be answering those in between our video segments here. And also, as well, I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I told you we're doing some stuff special today. I just shared a handout that should be popping out or at least giving you a notification to download. This is a new wonderful brochure from our partners in Switzerland that go all over the Para Reflectors as well. So definitely take a look at that as we are going along. So without further ado, we're going to roll into our first piece of video content for the day.
The Broncolor Para is an amazing light modifier, and it's extremely popular in the industry. It comes in 4 different sizes. The Para 88, which is right in front of me here. We have the Para 133, the 177, and the 222, and that's all in centimeters, 188 centimeters to 222 centimeters. I'm going to start with the Para 88 and show you basically how it works. The Para umbrella, which is this, has a focusing tube, which I'm just going to pull back and forth right now, and I'll show you that again in a different angle. And point it in front. The light is mounted directly in the center of this umbrella, and with this special material and these 24 different facets modeled after like a diamond or a piece of jewelry, the light uniquely reflects off of these facets as it's focused at its different points. And if you can see that in the camera, as I push back and forth, right now it's in a focused position, and then as I pull it out, it is in a flooded position. That light is not scattering, but reflecting off of these facets and uniquely coming out in a collimated form to focus in on your subject matter. There's nothing like it, and it's really hard to describe, especially on video right now. But when you see the Para work, and I have photographers who use this for both fashion, beauty. I have a couple of photographers who use it for food photography, believe it or not, and somebody recently used it for product photography because it was the only light that separated a very unique cosmetic product. I was actually amazed when I saw that. It's just a fantastic light. Now, the parts in the Para are the focusing tube, which I showed you, which goes back and forth, the umbrella itself, the cage. I'm going to actually just take it out for a second. Turn this off. What we call the cage, or the Para head adapter, which is the same bayonet mount. Okay. And that allows the light to be put dead center onto that focusing tube. And that is very unique and very important in the Para. You don't want that head positioned in an off-axis center. Off-axis, it's going to defeat the purpose of how the Para actually works. Then we have the holding adapter back here and the yoke here. On the larger ones, the 222 and the 177, there's actually a crank tilt adapter. that will actually make it easier for you when you need to tilt this up or down. Okay, and I'm going to tilt it back up and bring it right to the camera again. All right, I'm going to focus the light by pulling back on the focusing rod. And I'm going to show you that when I need to tilt this, I just release this handle. Actually, let me do it from the other side. Release this handle here, and I can then tilt this up and down like that. The larger ones actually have a rod device that actually helps you tilt easier than using just the focusing tube. And that's the parts of the para. Very unique light. So as far as the accessories for the para are concerned, we make 3 diffusers. And let's say your client wants a softer look and you don't want to go having to change everything and set up a new light. You could put one of the 3 diffusers, the 1, 2, or the 3. The 1 is the lightest and the 3 is the heaviest. And that could solve your problem right there, soften it up a little bit, especially if it's skin tone or something like that. We also make the optional crank adapter that if you wanted to use that instead of this, it's absolutely possible. And we make grids for these as well. So if you wanted to narrow the beam of the light, you can absolutely do that. Now that we've shown you what the para does and how the para works and the parts of the para, let's show you how to assemble the other para sizes, the 133 and the 222.
And of course, we will show those here in just a moment. So we did have a question that came through the chat while we were going over everything there. Brian asks, so when pushed closest in, it becomes more of a focused spotlight, and when pulled further out, it's a more even spread. Yes, absolutely. That is a great way to further control some of the goodness that is the para reflector there. Okay. And it looks like we don't have any other questions. I would like to say as well, Francis did mention there in our recorded process that we do have an optional crank adapter as well. I cannot recommend that more when you are using even the larger paras or even the 133. In my studio environment, I love using that crank adapter to make things just a little bit easier. For me, as one person, if I've got a camera in one hand and I'm trying to make adjustments on the fly, every little bit definitely helps. All right. And one other question here from Brian in the chat, and I'm going to rephrase this a little bit. Brian asks, how do we throw a hot light in there? Well, in the case of the paras, there are actually 2 versions that we have. We have our standard and our HR. The HR is a heat-resistant option that's designed for the hot lights. Definitely, I would not recommend to mix the 2 up because using those hot lights in a standard para will make for a pretty bad time. But we can discuss that as we go forward. So if there are not any further questions, we'll roll into our second video segment.
Now, let's go over assembling the Para 88 and the Para 133. This is the 133. And simply, I'm just going to give it a little shake, get it open, and then open these 2 tabs at the same time, these 2 levers, and then go to the opposite 2 and open those down there. Right here is the bayonet mount that we've been talking about all day. This is the adapter for that. It's the bayonet mount, larger on the bottom, smaller on the top, and this is the release pin for that. I basically just put it in and twist it, lock it in. It's good. Then focusing tube, which is specific for the Para 133. When this collar loose, just pop that down, make sure this ring is in there so it stops, and then lock it into place. Tilt adapter right here, that will go right on. And I like to tighten that up, turn it, move the knuckle, and get it nice and tight and in line. with this. You'll see it as you feel it. The para is now ready to be mounted onto a stand. And then you can use it to tilt down or tilt up. Lock that in place. I'll turn it. Then once the para is assembled with all its various parts, we have the last part, which is the para adapter. This is a Broncolor bayonet mount, and that goes onto the head itself. Then the head and the adapter will then go onto the focusing tube right there. Tighten it up. You can put the cable of your head through this trap door so it's not interfering. Leave enough slack so when you bring the tube back and forth, you're not going to be impeding the cable, the tension on the cable, and you're good to go. So once you're done, you want to disassemble this, and the first thing I would do is take off the cage, because once you pull out that tube, this may block you, and you want to get that out of the way, and then the rest is just disassembly in the reverse order of assembly.
All right, and extremely easy there to assemble and disassemble the two of the smaller paras, the 88 and the 133. Had a couple of more questions that came through here in the chat as we are going. So Francis, I'm going to tee you up for this one here. Alan in the chat asks, when using the para, do you get a hard direct light?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like to call it a very direct soft light because it's directional, and the way it collimates, the way it's reflecting off the 24 facets. It's not soft light, but it is not super hard either because of, you've got, imagine this, you've got one light up here, you've got one light down here, and then you've got the same here, and then in 24 different spots or 12 different spots, each one opposite from each other. So it's kind of reflecting in on each other. That's why you can use the diffuser that we talked about, but I think the diffuser kind of defeats the purpose of the para, to be honest with you. And Urs Recker feels that way too. It's not, it's not frowned upon, but you can still use it. So it's kind of hard to describe. It's not hard. It's not a hard light like an incandescent tungsten light that would just flood out and just be an ugly kind of light. It's a very pretty light, but it's not a softbox either. And that's why I don't really like to use a diffuser on top of a para as much. If I use the diffuser on a para, I would be using the lightest diffuser possible, the number one. So I hope that answers that. So.
Yep, I think that answers things pretty well. I know that this is a bit of an oxymoron, but I have heard the para be described as a hard, soft light. So I know that it doesn't sound like it should be possible for the two of them to exist side by side, but when you do get a chance to use one, most definitely you will see that as well. Adam in the chat asked as well, hey, I just purchased a para 222. Good on you. Great to have you there. And also have a 133. So you're in the double power club right there. But I'm a little confused. Oh, there we go. With what the D hooks are on that para and how they're supposed to be used. That's a very great question as well. Those are just more for security purposes, for helping secure your paras. If possibly to an upper light grid or for other ways. If you need to just attach something, that's what they're there for. They're not really designed for much else that I am aware of there. There was also some warranty questions as well in regards to paras. They're going to all fall under the Broncolor warranty process as well. That's going to be our 2-year warranty. So no worries there. Getting a bunch of questions coming through here. So let's move to the next. Can you use the Para with a Ceros 800L, the battery-powered monolight?
Absolutely, no problem.
Yep.
You would mount it because the Ceros L has the bayonet mount, as with all the Para with most of our Broncolor lamp heads, and the Ceros L, unlike other monolights of other makers, that has a exposed flash tube. And I think that's something, Blake, that we should touch upon, that we maybe didn't touch upon in the video, is that the reason the Para is working with a head because the flash tube is exposed, it's sticking out. If that flash tube was contained within the body of the lamp head, or like a mono head or a monolight, it just wouldn't radiate out enough on the right angle. You just wouldn't get the effect that is needed. It's designed that way, to have an exposed flash tube, and our Ceros, both the Ceros S and the Ceros L, have that, and that is it's a beautiful thing. Can I say?
Okay. And Greg, to kind of piggyback on that one, Greg in the chat asks, any tips when using the Para 133 with a Ceros 800L on a C-stand? Often with multiple shot bags, it's quite a bit of weight to manage focusing with the focusing tube. Any tips on tilting the head and adjusting the stand? I think that's going to fall into where I was discussing a little bit earlier. That optional crank adapter makes things so much easier, even with the smaller of the larger Paras, the 133. And definitely, if you are utilizing a Ceros 800 on that light, yes, depending on where your focusing point is, that can change that center of gravity. The other piece that I would recommend is perhaps look into a little bit more of a sturdier stand, a roller with a junior pin, or some ideas, options of that sort. When you are adding on that much counterweight to a C stand, things can get a bit tippy, and so always better to be safe than sorry.
Blake, I was going to add into that and align with what you just said. Yes, use a medium or a high roller if you can. And also, where the Para has the knob that goes in to tighten onto a 5/8 extension, take that knob off and use that whole 1 1/8 body of the yoke and drop that into the drop pin of that roller. And even though we recommend the crank adapter for the 177 and the 222, if you have a crank adapter, or if let's say you're renting it, rent the crank adapter as well, even for the 133. 88, not a problem, but on the 133 and higher, my personal recommendation is use the crank adapter if you have it, and drop that into the drop pin on a roller, and keep it above, in line with one of the legs, and that sandbag the heck out of it.
There we go. Definitely, I am loving all of the questions that we have that are coming in here. To kind of piggyback on that, John asked, which stand are we using in the demo video? That's a great question. I will need to pull that up. It is a Kupo roller. I believe that was one of the medium rollers. We filmed these videos a little bit ago, so I don't quite exactly remember which equipment that we were using while we were doing the filming process. Francis, do you remember by chance?
I think you're right. I think it was a Kupo medium roller. I'd have to get the exact model number. I don't remember. Okay.
Perfect. Another quick question here in the chat from Brian. Adapter for ProPhoto, question mark. As much as we would certainly love to keep things in the Broncolor family, we do have other options as well for mounting different branding of light. You can actually find out more of those on our website, broncolor.us. Here's another question, Francis, that I think might be perfect for you. Steve asks, which diffusion cover strength would create a similar light to a softbox? And how do you recommend focusing that light when using a diffusion cover?
Well, how long a time do you have, Steve? Now, if you want to create a softbox, you can put a number 3 on, and maybe even a number 2 on top of that. So 2 of them together. The the problem is it's not really going to focus as much. If you pull the head all the way back into the para umbrella, you're going to spot out a bit, but depending on the size of it, it's going to be almost like working with an uneven softbox. So, in that case, I would seriously go with something like a Broncolor Octabox, if that's what you're trying to get. My personal preference is that if I'm using the para, I'm using the para for the unique light that it's giving. And again, hard to describe. But if I wanted a softbox, I would just go with a softbox, and quite a lot less in price as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Definitely, when in doubt, try it out. If you are in a process of renting one, contact your local rental house and see if they have the diffusion to try out and see if it works for your needs. Sometimes you just need a little bit of diffusion. Personally, I tried the diffusion 1, which is the lightest amount, and found that it didn't really do too much, and it didn't really help for the images that I was trying to create. So it didn't quite work for me, but that may potentially work for you. Okay, next question here, Jared. How much does the protective glass type impact light quality? Frosted versus not frosted glass dome. Is one recommended more than the other?
Blake, I remember Orrs telling us that it's not really going to matter that much in the para. So you don't need to use a frosted dome. The frosted dome is more for something like the optical spot that we have, the optical spot attachment, or the PAR reflector, which is a highly polished metal finish on a metal reflector that when you use that, you're actually seeing the actual element of the light. So you need to use a frosted dome on that to make it a little bit more even. So in the para, it's not going to matter. I'm going to check with Orrs though on this, and just to make sure, but I'm fairly certain about that.
Yep, and I think that seems to be right from everything that I remember as well. The only real time that you're going to be needing the frosted dome is if you are going to be using one of the light shapers that you can potentially see the flash tube as well. So when it comes to the para, I don't believe there's going to be a benefit to going one way or the other. Cody in the chat. Cody, I might have to have you rephrase this one a little bit differently. Cody asks, can you interchange the mounting hardware between the different size paras? When you say mounting hardware, do you mean the internal cage, or do you mean the tilt or crank adapter? We'll need a little bit of more clarification there. So if you can re-enter that in the Q&A session or in the chat, that would be great.
The cage is universal. What we call the cage was called the Broncolor Power Mount Adapter. And that's made for, like Blake said earlier, made for other brands of lights too as well. But that is interchangeable. In fact, when we sell the Power kit, the mounting adapter for the head is sold separately, because you might be buying it for Broncolor, you might be buying it for something else.
Wonderful. That's a great answer there. M in the chat asks, if you were to buy one para, would you recommend the 88 or the 133 first? Personally, I think that's going to come down to personal opinion and how much space you have in your working space, in your studio, and also the type of light that you're looking to get out of that reflector. I am a big fan of the 88. Even though I have the 88 and the 133, I think for my space, the 133 is a little bit on the large size, but of course that's all going to be all relative, because my space compared to many others is a little bit smaller. I also find that the 88 is a little bit more easy to control. As a portrait photographer, I think that for what I'm looking to get out of it, I like the 88 a little bit better.
You can also travel a little bit easier with the 88, as the Para and the 88 and the 133 full kits are sold in 2 bags. One bag has the umbrella that's all folded down, and then the other bag holds the yoke, the focusing attachment, and the focusing tube and you can stuff the what I like to call the cage, the Broncolor head mount adapter in there. If you have the 88, I have fit them all into one bag and kind of eliminated the extra bag that's unnecessary. So on the 33, you do need the 2 bags, or just get a another type of Temba bag or something like that.
Okay. And Cody came back in the chat here and says light and crank. So yes, both of those items are pieces that you can optionally swap in and out, depending on the light that you're going to be using and depending on whether or not you need or want that extra stability with the crank there. Adam here in the chat as well says, asking about the 24 facets versus a different number. Is 24 a magic number? Or does it have any significance?
I don't remember, Blake.
And I don't think so as well. I know that our Swiss counterparts are usually in the chat as well. They may be able to give us some answers, but I don't think that there is anything special about the number of 24, except for that's just the number of facets on the inside of the para where everything is built up together. That's definitely going to be something I will probably need to do a little bit of research on and find out. Let's see here. Alan, what is the difference with a flashlight and when will be the best use with this kind of reflector? So I guess, Alan, you might need to give us a little bit more information here, but I think what is being asked is there a difference to the output when you're using different lights and lamps? And then what is the best kind of use for this reflector?
Alan, are you asking when you say flashlight, are you referring to strobe? So I'll just answer that based on assuming that's your question. I personally like strobe. I think strobe is the cleanest light next to the sun up in the sky. It's the full spectrum. It renders colors perfectly, in my opinion. But certainly the para can be used with other types of incandescent hot lights, ambient lights. So, but that's when you'd use the para HR because you're going to build up heat in those up to 2,000 watts. So the kind of light, yes, direct light. Blake, do you see that question?
Yep, I see it there. So I guess the question is, how does when you are lighting direct, does that change the output when using the para? And I don't think there is going to be a bigger difference sort of in that case, whether or not you're using strobe or something that is more of a continuous light. You're going to still be able to have a lot of similar stuff. You'll still be able to focus the light. You'll still be able to make those changes. So I don't believe that there's going to be any main differences there. Alan, if we still aren't answering the question, definitely let us know, and we'll see what we can do to get you a better answer there. DeWitt, and actually before we go to DeWitt's question, Tom, I see your question here in the chat. We're going to cover the 177 and 222 here in just a moment once we get through this batch of questions, and I think yours will fit perfectly there. DeWitt asks, hello, forgive me if you've already answered this, but I'll be using a Ceros 800L. A lot of Ceros users in the chat today, and a Para 133. Does the diffusion cloth or grid interfere with the defocused positioning?
The number one is obviously is the lighter, the thinner of the diffusers that we have. So you will get some kind of focusing effect. But if you put a 3 on there or a 2, and I've seen people even put 2 of them together, it's the focusing. It's, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. It's not focusing enough. It's not doing enough for you of the true intention of how the para is designed.
Yep. And I think as well, as I'm rereading the question here, DeWitt, I think you're asking about sort of the physicality of how it will all fit together. Yes, when using a Ceros, if you are using any of the accessories, there will be some concerns there with physically how it all fits together. Definitely, of course, when you're talking a Cirrus light, you're using a much bigger monoblock versus a typical head, which is much smaller. So there will be some considerations there if you are trying to use some of those accessories with your Cirrus.
Blake, if I could just interject for a second, since everybody's asking about the Cirrus, and we had a question earlier about a frosted dome versus a clear UV dome. The Cirrus heads come now with a dome that is frosted, not only all around on the front and all the sides. So using that in a para is really no different than using, let's say, a Unilight with a normal UV coated clear dome.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, that's some great information there. Thank you, Francis. So it looks like we have cleared our chat queue here. Please keep those questions coming. But now we've talked about the smaller of our two paras, the 88 and the 133. Now let's look at something a little bit larger. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and add that video now.
So the para 177 and the 222 are the larger of the four paras, excuse me. I'm going to set up the 222 right now, and 177 would be the same basic assembly. I'm going to use the accessory called the crank tilt adapter. This comes in really handy on these larger ones. Just want to make sure that this opening up here and that the cardboard sleeve is in this position and the slot is at the very top. When I put this in, you'll see why. Let me just keep that tight. And essentially, the Para 222 and 177, actually the umbrella part folds in on itself. You'll see when I start setting it up. But I'm going to take this out, and I'm not going to use the included tilt adapter that's normally with this. This is not a crank tilt adapter. You could use it, but it's pretty tough to work with, and the crank tilt makes it so much easier. I'll show you in just a moment. So taking the umbrella out, and this is the yoke that I want to put into here. So I'm going to position this. Now, I can do this myself, but if you don't feel comfortable doing this, get somebody to assist you and spot you when you do that. So this part will go right into here, and then I'll lock it down. Okay, and I knocked the tube out. No problem. Just going to set that down very gingerly like that. This is the sleeve that I'm talking about. And maybe I had it a little too loose, so I'll just snug it up a little bit so I don't push it out when I insert that yoke. Okay, so I'm going to put this yoke into here with that cardboard sleeve in there. That's very important. And it's just going to go in, and I'll just jiggle it around a little bit to get it, and then I start to lock this in place with the handle that you might not be able to see on the other side. Once that's in and tightened, I feel comfortable with that. This is mounted onto this. I could put the focusing tube, which is here. There's a leverage rod, which I don't necessarily need right now because I have this crank tilt adapter. And this goes in here, and you just loosen that collar a little bit. And this goes in till it stops, and then I'll just tighten that collar up. Okay. Let's make sure I can get this. I got these two tie down that are on here, and I'll take those off. All right. And now the umbrella part is freed up. And I'll just gingerly take this out. Make sure it's not snagged on anything. And just do that. Like I said, 2 people might make this a whole lot easier for you, but it can be done by 1 person. Then the crank here is the crank for the umbrella. Loosen that up. And then I just crank it in a clockwise position. And you'll see the umbrella pull in. Just give it a little shake. Make sure the connectors are okay. Nothing's kinking on it. Nothing's grabbing any material. It all looks really good. And then I'll just finish cranking it up until it becomes taut. And like I said, you have the option of putting this leverage rod in here. There's a threaded receiver right here to a bolt. And having this is nice because if you did need to get this adjusted a little bit, while you crank it, you could hold on to it. Or you could put a small counterweight right here. That's exactly what it's designed for. So now that I have the Para 222 assembled, let me show you how to disassemble it. Again, if you have people that can help you, that would be great, but you can do this on your own if you feel confident about it. So basically, I'm going to take off this leveraging rod, and it's just hand tight. Put that away for a second. And then I'm going to uncrank the umbrella itself. I like to crank it, tilt it down a little bit using the crank tilt adapter. Okay. And it's going to go to a point where it stops. And then you simply have to fold back at these points. There's a break in the connecting rods. And just simply, very carefully, fold these back onto themselves, trying not to pinch any of the fabric or pull any of the fabric unnecessarily. Should be less tension, so you should be able to. Okay, that's all it goes. Then there are a couple of these tie straps. And very carefully just onto itself, tie it back up. Then I'm going to, you could either take the whole crank off the stand, but it's pretty heavy, this crank itself, so I'm actually going to leave it there, and I'm going to tilt down a little bit, loosen the yoke on the focusing device. And then just simply pull it off. And then it goes in the bag using these supports, these foam block supports. The one thing I did not do was I didn't take out the focusing tube, but I can do that right now. I do not have the basket on here, or what we call the Para head adapter. I'll put this back here just to keep it tucked away. And there's actually one more tie strap that I can do to keep the umbrella from getting damaged. I usually put this back in here. Put that in the case on this side because there's a little bit of a slot for it where that foam is. There it is, ready to be put away. Oh, I didn't take that off, but I could take that off and put it right back in there very easily. Thank you for joining us for this Broncolor Assistant training. We hope you found this to be informative and very helpful for you.
Thank you, Video Francis. We definitely appreciate those kind words that you've got for us, and thank you so much for putting all of this together with us here. So we've got a couple more questions that have come through that we can kind of answer here. I'm going to start off with Andrew's question. It's not so much of a question, more of a comment. Francis is the man. All right. Yes, we definitely agree here, and we love to keep him as happy as we can through the process here. Someone else, he got cleared from my stuff here. Brian looks like says that 222 is a beast. Yes, it is a very, very, very large reflector. But if you ever have a chance to use one and have the room to do so, I highly recommend it. It is definitely great. And for those who are curious and want some trivia, there used to be a larger version as well. So
330.
Yeah. So it used to be even bigger.
Yeah. The 222 is 7 feet across. The 330 was 10 feet across. I've actually worked with it in the past, and it was a beast. And the photographer would actually doing full length fashion. He would actually stand in front of it, and then that would light the girl up in her whole body. But then we'd have another light boomed in like a beauty dish to just hit her face. And it was really unique because she'd be wearing like white, and the way we lit this and the way we spotted the para, you were able to light the outfit up very nicely, but there was also an edge, like a darker edge around the girl's shape, which defined her and lifted her off the white background. So it was quite unique. This is an amazing light, and I highly recommend if you want to do something creative to work with it.
Okay, perfect. So, Tom, we did not forget about you. Your question here, the 177 and the 222 fold up to save space. Will the para last longer if it's left open, space permitting, or will it last just as long if folded up and not in use?
I think we'd have to ask the Swiss officially, but if I had to guess, if you left it open, and I know a lot of studios that do, UV will eventually get to the materials, although I've never seen a problem. I've never seen a para with the reflective material scraping or falling off. The Swiss build these things so well, and they're over-engineered. And I mean, if you just feel the material on the para, or even one of our soft boxes, they are just super high quality. So I don't think it's going to matter too much. But let's say you had a studio and you have a lot of daylight coming in, maybe you just keep it not so close to the windows and daylight flooding it and hitting it all the time. I mean, daylight UV radiation is gonna take its toll on anything, even me. So.
Yep, I think the one piece that I would add to that, as whether or not you keep it folded up or open, shouldn't be too much of an issue either way. But as Francis mentioned in the video portion, be careful when closing it down that you don't get the fabric caught in between the carbon fiber rods as they break apart or when you open it back up again. That potentially can damage that fabric much earlier than you would like it to, and that's never a good time at all. So as Galvin would say, work purposefully and I don't even remember his exact terminology, but yes, work with purpose and make sure that we don't have any issues.
Hey, Blake, I'd like to add that at my last Broncolor assistant training here in New York City, we went over the paras and pretty much what we demonstrated in the video, we did live, and the students were really eager. So I had the two smallest stature students work together to put the Para 222 away, and it went flawless. They did a great job on it. There was a step ladder was needed, but it was on a higher stand. But they did a great job with it, and nobody got hurt, and no paras harmed during this training. So.
There we go. And M in the chat says purposefully and deliberate. Absolutely, yes. There we go. Simon in the chat says he actually owns one of the old Para 330s, and he's asking about some replacement parts. I'm not sure what is currently available and what isn't, because I know that has been discontinued for a little bit of time now. Please reach out to our service department, and we'd be happy to see what we can do to find a good solution for you there. Okay, so it looks like we are just about ready to start taking things in for a landing. I'm not seeing any other questions that are really popping up here, but I do see something that I would like to address and would like to talk about. A couple of people during the process have asked, how much do these cost? Where can I get one? What's the deal? And definitely right now, for those who are in the know and who have been a little bit, shall we say, observant through everything, slide that offer out here. Boom! For the month of September until the end of the month, all paras, all para accessories, and all kits are going to get a free gift and 25% off from your Broncolor dealer of choice. So definitely make sure you take a look at that and take advantage of that deal. This is one of the bigger sales that we have every so often, and it's one that everybody is definitely looking forward and definitely wants to get one. I can say as well that right now, because of the popularity of this sale, things might be out of stock in certain places, but don't fret. As long as you talk to your dealer and get that order in before the end of the month, we will make sure that everything is going to be good for you there. And again, that is any Broncolor dealer.
And Blake, that's 25% off on all para and para accessories, correct? And
all paras, all para accessories.
And if you buy the kit, you get a free grid, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And that's an expensive grid too. So
yeah,
it's a really good deal. It's an amazing deal. We've had so much movement on it so far.
Absolutely. And Jared in the chat says, I already took advantage of this for an 88 and a 177 coming tomorrow. So there you go. The timing just happened to work out in just the way that it should be there. So
Jared is the man, not Francis. Jared is the man.
Okay. So it looks like I am not seeing anything else here. Yeah. So I guess to wrap things up, as I mentioned at the top of everything, this is the fourth and final of our assistance training series. For those of you who are in the Chicago area, is that right, Francis? Next month, we are going to be having one of these in person. So definitely if you are in that Chicago area and want to...
It's actually the Ohio area, Columbus, Ohio. October 15th, Columbus, Ohio. We're just starting to put out the marketing on this today. We will have an assistant training that is going to be held through a studio called Ohio HD Studio, and in conjunction with our Broncolor dealer, Midwest Photo. So that'll be on a Saturday. It's from 11 to 3. It is free, limited to 25 students. And we go over everything with Broncolor on how to use it, and on how to turn on the packs, how to work the Cirrus monolights, how to set up the paras, how to set up the heads, how to use the Pico lights, how to use the Broncolor app. And we'll give you snacks and lunch, and might even be a prize or two there, but they're horrible prizes.
Well, perfect. Hey, any prize is a good prize. Brian says, you guys rule. This series was super helpful. Much appreciated. Brian, thank you for joining us throughout the process. And of course, feel free to join us anytime we have our webinars. We always love everybody there.
Thank you, guys.
Steve asks, will the Cirrus 400L be adequate enough to fully utilize Apara 133, or do you recommend the 800? Steve, I think there's no real straight answer to this one because I think it's all going to depend on what you're trying to light, the size of your studio, and all the other sort of pieces of light, lighting math and things that go involved. Francis, do you have any thoughts here on 400 versus 800?
The question I would ask is, what ISO do you want to shoot at? And are you going to be, is Cirrus L, you're going to be on location with this? The Cirrus L will have 440 shots on the battery. The Cirrus the Cirrus 400 will have 440 shots on the battery at full power. That's level 10. If you have a Cirrus 800, you're looking at 220 shots at full power. I always like a little bit of bigger, better. The cost difference on the Cirrus 400L to the 800L, and you'll probably kill me on this, Blake, is not that much. And I would go with the 800. That's just me, though.
Yep. It really comes down to personal preference, and just remember, there's only a one-stop difference between the two power levels, between you're looking at 400 or 800. So even with either of those options, there are ways to work around that and get a good, pleasing result. Okay, so I think that if there are no further questions, we'll let a couple more minutes go by here and just see if there's anything else that comes through. But while we are doing that, as a reminder as well, not only did we talk about our power accessories, but once again, I want to remind you that the lighting masterclass with Urs is coming up and starting next week in LA. So definitely, if you are interested, if you are in any of our 6 cities, or if you're in a position where you can travel, definitely would highly recommend doing that as well. You'll get to meet Francis. I'll be at the Atlanta option, or the Atlanta date there. So definitely will be great to go through and meet us and learn from one of the true lighting masters.
Blake, I think there's one more question by Marvin. Do you want to read that out loud?
Absolutely. I saw Marvin's question come in there as I was rambling on about our masterclass. Marvin asked, can you talk about the difference between buying a Para with and without the adapter? So here is sort of the piece on that. Francis, do you want to take that, or do you want me to? Sure.
When you buy a Para kit, it'll say, like, for instance, Para 133 without the adapter. The simple reason we present it like that is because with the Para, you have a choice to work with a Broncolor lighting or another brand, and that's your choice to do that. I highly recommend you work with Broncolor, of course, but I am biased. So then you need to purchase the Para adapter for that light head or that lamp head that you're going to use in that. And if you're going to use Broncolor, and I hope you do, you're going to buy the Broncolor mounting adapter. If you're going to buy another brand, we sell other brands. We even have a universal one.
Okay, perfect. So let's see here. Yep, I think that answers that. I am being told in my ear here that for all of our special guests that are on this webinar right now, if you look to the sticky message there is a bit of a code there. Let me confirm that since I have to pop over to another window. So Francis, if you want to vamp for a minute while I check that code.
Okay, no problem. Marvin, no problem. Thank you for asking that great question. Are there any other questions that we can answer regarding the paras or anything else on Broncolor right now? The 25% sale this month is going to end on September 30th. So talk to your Broncolor dealer. You could ask Blake or myself or Dan any questions if we can help you in any way. Any other questions there? Am I looking in the right place? Maybe I'm not. Okay. Any discounts on Cirrus L lights coming up in the next couple months? Ooh, I'm the wrong person to ask that. I got to ask you, Blake.
I can also say that I am the wrong person to ask about that. Because when it comes to promotions, definitely I understand that everybody wants to take advantage of the best sales possible there. But, of course, if everything was always on sale, it wouldn't be fun for everybody there. So definitely keep your eyes open if you do have something that you are interested in. At some point, there's bound to be a promo going available for you.
I'm going to answer this a little bit more greedy. Steve, think about this. If you bought the Para 222, the 25% difference you'd save on that and getting the free grid, I think would almost buy you the Cirrus L. So there you go, right there.
All right, perfect. So I have updated the sticky code. Looks like I had something a little bit wrong up there. But if you do use that code Broncolor VIP 30, if you are signing up for your ERS class, make sure to do so and get a little bit of an extra benefit to go there. So without further ado, we have reached our hour. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Francis, thank you for stepping in for the last couple of months to be our on-air host and help me out with the process. This has been the Ask the Broncolor Assistant, session 14. Thank you very much, and everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.